This report on this week in Parliament covers a small number of issues, but it has been a very busy week indeed. The same-sex adoption bill passed the lower house today, and the bill sees same-sex couples able to adopt children of two types, both known adoptions and stranger adoptions. This particularly enables couples to adopt children, and previously only single gay or lesbian people could adopt children. What's clear also is that Labor's bill shackled together the steps about same-sex adoption with an attack on freedom of religion. And those churches that provide adoption services were going to be, under this bill, or will be if this bill is passed without amendment in the Legislative Council, compelled to undertake these adoptions against their religious beliefs. Those protections that currently exist in the Equal Opportunity Act are being removed by Labor's bill. And whilst this is a free vote for the coalition overall, it is on this clause, clause 17 as it's called, that we will combine to try to protect freedom of religion. This is a bill that balances a number of rights. It seeks to strike a balance, and we think Labor has got the balance wrong on this bill. I certainly believe that same-sex couples ought to be able to adopt children, but I don't believe that those who provide these services from religious organisations should be compelled to provide services against their beliefs. Labor also introduced a bill into Parliament this week on rate capping, and this is a bill that breaks their fundamental position from the state election. At the election, before the election, the now Premier, then Opposition Leader, promised to cap rates at the CPI. And of course, families feel the rate bill. It's one of the largest bills that most families see each year. And councils have much got a responsibility to ensure that their rates are kept under control. But Labor has not introduced a bill, as it promised, that caps rates at the CPI. In fact, their bill creates a bogus index, a new index that no one's ever heard of, that is higher than the CPI, and gives enormous power to the Minister for Local Government to set rates at a higher rate than the CPI. This is a fundamental break of Labor's election promise. It's a fundamental breach of their pledge to cap rates at the CPI. And already this year, rates have gone up around the state well over the CPI. 3.8% average statewide, but the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, produced by the Australian Bureau of Statistics to the 30th of June was 1.1%. So Labor's broken their promise this year, and they're going to break it into the future. We're very concerned that Labor should be held to account for their promises, and certainly I will be pointing out everywhere I can that Labor have broken their promise and that this will hit families across the state. The South Yarra Station issue also came to the fore again this week. Labor's proposals around the Metro project are unfunded, but are moving forward to an acquisition phase with a number of properties across the metropolitan area, including in South Yarra, to be compulsorily acquired. People were sent letters about those compulsory acquisitions this week, and Labor have yet actually to fund the project. So this is certainly causing distress, and certainly we're very concerned about that distress. Equally, the South Yarra Station issue has reached more public profile, and we will be campaigning very hard indeed to see South Yarra connected to the Melbourne Metro. Labor's current deficient proposals would see the Cranbourne line and the Pakenham line put underground but unconnected with South Yarra Station. Our proposal in government, the Melbourne Rail Link project, would have seen South Yarra have an underground station built and all 4 lines that currently go through the South Yarra Station connected to the Metro. Labor's proposal, if it's proceeded with, will be an historic mistake. You want to build more capacity for public transport in an area where you've got more density of population and more density of development. And I invite anyone who wants to look at this carefully to look at that Forest Hill precinct near Toorak Road and Chapel Street, and they will see the enormous development there. To build South Yarra without an underground station, to remove those lines and to reduce capacity at South Yarra, as Labor propose, would be an historic mistake. The question I asked in the Upper House this week of Gavin Jennings, Labor's leader in the Upper House, was about protections for Fawkner Park. And he's confirmed that the government's plan is to use Fawkner Park as a staging post for trucks, tractors, heavy earth moving equipment. And he confirms that spoil may well be put on Fawkner Park. Now, having hundreds of thousands of tonnes of spoil on the park exposes it to huge risk. So we need further assurances, and Labor needs to rethink some of their mechanisms. This project, the Melbourne Metro project, is showing all the signs of Labor's shambolic approach to major projects. We've seen changes in depth in the proposals for the tunnels running along Swanston Street. Initially it was to be a shallow tunnel, now they're saying it's a deep tunnel. This is a shambolic project. Labor needs to get its act together, it needs to fund the project, and it needs to come clean on how it's going to conduct this.